Your water slide should be anything but random. These are all choices. This was a choice. This was a choice. Every single one. I am not addicted to water slides, by the way. I can stop anytime I want. Today, I'll show you how I made my choices for Rex V2. Quick heads up if you've just spawned in. This is my Rex version 2. Ongoing build, everything hand painted, no airbrush anywhere. Playlist is below if you want the earlier stages. Today, water slides, and here's the first thing worth knowing. Everything you're looking at came from 7 different sheets. One of them is Bandai. The rest are aftermarket, from Japan, collected over time. Because this is one of the quiet catches with Bandai kits. Most quality kits I build, the water slides come in the box. Bandai almost always leaves you to sort it out on your own. So if you're heading towards painted, detailed builds, heads up to start collecting your sheets now, before you need them. There is nothing worse than being caught flat-footed with a kit and waiting on the decals when you are making excellent progress. My precious. All live together in one airtight container, so when decal day comes, boom, everything's in one place. Quick pro bench hack. It's almost always faster to work off a previous version than to squint at a schematic. You can eyeball the exact decals and the exact placement in 3D. We did this all the time making studio demo models, and I've done the same here off my Rex V1. Same decal sheets, still in the task box. So, how were these chosen? Color first. Most of what I'm using is grey, dark grey. I deliberately stayed away from heavy black because black markings at this scale push the whole machine towards looking like a toy. Too much contrast, too graphic, especially on a finish that will read as white. The near black is reserved for only the smallest markings, where it can afford to be punchy. Then a couple of sheets that are only red and a couple that are only white. That spread matters. If every marking on the machine is the same color and the same weight, your eye reads it as copy-paste. Variation is what breaks that up. I love getting up close to real-world aircraft and looking over all the stencils. They are so good for sci-fi and mecha inspo. The different sizes, colors, placements, and even slight font differences. All that real-world inspo can be yoinked across to our miniature projects. Here's one that sounds like heresy. I mostly ignore the scale printed at the top of the sheet. I mean, really, what does it even mean? Sure, they're being helpful, bless them. But even if the manufacturer says they're for 144 or 1100 or 135 or whatever, doesn't matter. What matters is how the markings read on the thing you're making. This time on mine, small and tight makes the machine read big. A marking that's technically the correct scale, but visually chonk, shrinks the whole model. So I chose the decal for the project read, not for the label. What I do is build the machine a maintenance life it never had. I spent real time studying the details and asking, where would there be a real danger to ground crews? An access hatch, a filler point, something a ground crew needs to be warned about. So the warning stencils, heads up markings, the way you see them clustered on a real fighter jet. Then there is the graphic art angle. It's also got to look cool. So along with everything I just mentioned, I also use my eye and taste to spot places where a decal will augment the shape and add visual detail to the build. Yep, that's where the freedom becomes fun. You can make some choices and they are not wrong. None of it is canon. If you studied visual arts, you know exactly what I mean. And that's why it reads as real. Well, at least realistic. Our eye recognizes the pattern of a maintained machine, even on a machine that's not real. Before any of them went on, gloss coat, Mr. Superclear, straight from the can, my favorite. No airbrush needed for this stage either. so if you're painting Tokyo apartment style, you're fine. You'll hear people say that you don't need gloss for decals. Sometimes true. But gloss is cheap insurance against silvering, that trapped air shine under the film that ruins a marking. And on this build, it earns its place twice over, because these are hand-brushed, hand-finished surfaces, and they're rougher than a sprayed finish. The gloss gives the decal something smooth to bed into. Application. You'll see folks do a lot here. Setter, then softer, then go back in early, roll it with a cotton bud Q-tip, press it down, fuss at it. This time I deliberately did nothing extra. Mr. Mark set it down, decal placed carefully, and I walked away. Probably because there was so many of them to do. Then when I came back, they were perfect, every single one. Now, the honest caveat. That works because these are thin, and I knew it. Thin aftermarket sheets. The thick, tough Hasegawa decals I fight with on other builds genuinely needs the extra steps. So the lesson isn't skip the steps, because Link said, the lesson is read the decal and match the process to it. Thin decal, less steps, restraint wins. It always does. I didn't touch softer, Microset or Microsol once on this build. Full disclosure, this took me a full day at the bench. Keeping everything small and tight means focus. Lots of tiny decisions, lots of squinting. One tweezer load at a time. It was exhausting, honestly. But that's the point, isn't it? Anything but random isn't a slogan. It's 100% deliberate. The choice is the technique. And here's what all of that buys. Look at what the markings are doing to the hand-painted surfaces. They tighten them. All of that brush variation suddenly reads sharper, more deliberate, more real machine. These decals aren't decoration on top of the paint. They're finishing and tightening the paint step. Small and tight was a scale decision. Doing nothing extra was a process decision. Same principle both times. Restraint. That's the whole video. They'll get sealed in and blended into the surface as the first move of the weathering stage, which is next. I want to hear from you fine folks on this one. Where do you put your markings when there's no reference? Genuinely curious, because everyone solves this one differently. If you want some examples of the paint side of how I work, there's a free studio sampler on my website. Technique pages, paint breakdowns, straight from the books. Links below. The rest of the Rex is in the playlist, in order, bare plastic to now. There's a Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. Please, keeps the lights on, and I super appreciate you. Subscribe if this was useful. Next week, the gloss sandwich gets sanded back, the film edge disappears, and the wizarding shenanigans begins.